Chapter 1: The Rebirth of the Prince. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dian Dynasty, Nanyang County, in a wing deep in the Ye clan's mansion. No. A handsome-looking young man looked horrified, roared, and suddenly woke up from his sleep. Am I here? The young man first looked around, then his eyes suddenly changed. He found himself lying in an antique and dilapidated wing. Shouldn't I be dead? What is this place? The boy's name was Ye Feng, and his head was confused at this time, Buzz. But at this moment, a strange memory suddenly poured into his head. Next, Ye Feng understood everything. I was actually reborn, and it was 3,000 years later. But why do I know it is 3,000 years later? This memory is so strange, but it is deeply imprinted in my mind. Ye Feng's tone had an unbelievable meaning. He was originally the prince of a powerful divine dynasty in the spiritual world. This divine dynasty is called the divine dynasty of creation, and it rules the entire vast land of the spiritual world. But Ye Feng had a difficult life and was cursed by God since birth. He is the prince of the divine dynasty, but his lifespan is only a few decades, and he is not as good as an ordinary mortal. He will die soon. For the sake of Prince Ye Feng, the God Emperor of the Creation God Dynasty resolutely entered the legendary first restricted area of life above the sky alone. Regardless of everything, he wanted to find the legendary magic pill to extend his son's life. Ye Feng only remembered that when his father finally returned from the sky, his royal robe was in pieces, his body was seriously injured, and he was covered in blood. This magical elixir is enough for you, Fenger, to live as long as the sun and the moon, and to live as long as the heaven and the earth. His father said this, but before Ye Feng could say anything surprising. In the palace, great changes occurred. Countless strong men rushed in, and the person leading the charge turned out to be the most loyal minister under the divine dynasty, Gu Tong. Sky. No one expected that Prime Minister Gu Tong Tian, who was known as the most loyal minister under the god of creation, would rebel. The rebels broke into the palace and fought fiercely. Even though the God Emperor of Creation had unparalleled cultivation, he had just returned from the forbidden sky of life and suffered heavy losses. He was no longer a match for Prime Minister Gu Tong Tian. Ye Feng was killed in the chaos. Then, he woke up in this life, but before dying, Ye Feng swallowed the mysterious golden elixir that his father had obtained from the sky. Even if he dies, he can't let this unique magic pill be left to those rebellious officials and traitors. In the house, Ye Feng recalled for a moment and got off the bed. He put on his shoes and walked to the bronze mirror in the room. What appeared in the bronze mirror was a young man with an elegant appearance and as gentle as jade. He looked different from the previous life, but he was about the same age. At this time, he also received some memory fragments of the original owner of this body. The land where Ye Feng was reborn was called Longyuan Continent. However, there is no record of the spirit world in the memory of the original owner. Ye Feng pondered a little, wondering if the Longyuan Continent where he was reborn was on the same land as the spiritual world. Then he clenched his fists and muttered, no matter what. If I survive, then there is hope. Although it is already 3,000 years later, I am afraid that there will no longer be a God Emperor of Creation in this world, only a God Emperor Tong Tian. 3,000 years, how much history and characters have been lost in the long river of time. But those powerful enemies back then are definitely not dead, and maybe my father is not dead either. My father is the most powerful person in the spiritual world, the God of creation. He is such a great man, with a lifespan of tens of millions of years. Gu Tong Tian, an old man, could only imprison his father, but he could never completely kill him. I will find the land of the spirit world. This is my kingdom, and I will definitely take it back. Ye Feng made a heavy promise to himself in his heart. The cursed body in the previous life has been broken. I have enough time to practice and become stronger in this life. Ye Feng's eyes were bright and his fighting spirit was high. Blessings come from misfortunes, misfortunes come from blessings. Ye Feng also discovered that the golden elixir that his father brought back from the first restricted area of life in the spiritual world, above the sky, was floating in his mind. This golden elixir can go through the long river of time with me, and it must be very extraordinary and mysterious after being reborn 3,000 years later. The Great Yan dynasty was located in the southern part of the mainland. The place where Ye Feng is at this time is a small place in the Dian dynasty, the Yi clan, a martial arts family in Nanyang County, and his identity in this life is that of an orphan adopted by his family 17 years ago. Ye Feng suddenly gasped in pain. He opened his shirt and found that his body was covered in bruises, which was shocking. Ye Feng's eyes were shocked and angry, but combined with the memory of the original owner, he knew that these were the masterpieces of the young masters in the Yi clan. After all, Ye Feng entered the Yi clan as an orphan, therefore, the young masters and buddies in the Yi clan usually treat Ye Feng, the adopted family member of the Yi clan, as if they are servants. Don't worry, since you are dead and I am reborn, we are the same person, and I will not let us be bullied in any way, that Ye Feng thought in his mind, and sat cross-legged in the room, and began to run the divine secret of creation in his mind. A powerful golden energy that was different from ordinary warriors' cultivation was immediately produced in his body, that is his inheritance, the unique divine secret of creation. Father once told me that the origin of this divine secret of creation is mysterious and it hides a big secret. Ye Feng thought in his heart, the beginning of the journey of cultivation is divided into 4 realms of martial arts. They are Zhenwu realm, Lingwu realm, Tianwu realm and divine martial realm. Each realm is divided into 9 heavens, but suddenly at this moment, the mysterious golden elixir floating in Ye Feng's mind suddenly shook violently. Boom! A huge and pure spiritual energy rushed out of the golden elixir and poured into Ye Feng's body. Boom! In an instant, Ye Feng used this pure spiritual energy to break through from an ordinary person to the true martial arts realm in one fell swoop. The first level of the true martial realm. Ye Feng's heart was shaken. He felt that there was a vast and endless ocean of spiritual energy in that golden elixir, but he wanted to take the initiative to explore the secrets, and the golden magic pill became quiet again. I knew that this golden elixir that my father risked his life to bring back from the sky is definitely not a mortal thing. Ye Feng thought in his mind, stood up and prepared to go out. According to the family's rules, it seems that I can now go to the Ancestral Hall to verify the strength of the true martial realm and get some cultivation resources from the family. But right now... Boom! The door of Ye Feng's house was suddenly kicked open by a violent force. Boom! The wooden door was shattered and debris scattered everywhere. The sun shines in from outside the house. Ye Feng's eyes changed slightly. In his field of vision, 2 murderous men appeared. One of the big men smiled cruelly as soon as he came up, and said with deep contempt in his tone, "Little bastard, I finally found you." Chapter 2 Ancestral Hall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xianxia and Li Si. Ye Feng recognized these 2 people. They were the 2 henchmen of Ye Xiling, the second young lady of the Yi clan. Ye Feng, you are indeed hiding in your room. The tallest among the 2 is Xianxia. He is dressed in a black robe and is extremely tall. He is more than 2 meters tall, a head taller than Ye Feng. Next to him, Li Si was also as tall as a tower. He stared at Ye Feng coldly and said, "I think you don't want to live anymore. It's your turn to feed the second lady's horse today, but you haven't gone until this morning. Feed the horse." Today the second lady saw that her beloved horse was hungry, and she wants one of your arms as punishment. What? Ye Feng's eyes suddenly turned cold and he said, "Just for a horse, you want one of my arms?" At this time, Ye Feng finally understood how much the young men and ladies of the Yi clan despised him. Like ants, trample on them at will. Xianxia laughed ferociously and said, "Ye Feng, who do you think you are? An orphan, but a humble servant of our Yi clan. You dare to question the second lady's decision? Hurry up and follow us." The second lady said, "You want to see us chop off your arm with your own eyes?" Li Si laughed cruelly, and grabbed Ye Feng directly with a palm as big as a casserole. Although these 2 are not real warriors, they are still practitioners. As soon as Li Si took action, a force of energy appeared in his palm, which could instantly crush the bones of an ordinary person. Xianxia saw Li Si grabbing Ye Feng with a ferocious smile, and seemed to have seen the miserable look of Ye Feng screaming in pain, but the next moment, "Since you have come here to seek death, I have no choice but to satisfy you." Only a cold shout from Ye Feng was heard, "Aha!" With a movement of his body, he suddenly arrived in front of Li Si and directly hit Li Si on the chest with a palm. Boom! Ah! Accompanied by a miserable howl, Li Si's entire chest suddenly collapsed, and his ribs were shattered to an unknown extent. Jen was directly blasted out of the house. Puff! Li Si suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, which was mixed with some fragments. He looked at Ye Feng in the room with horrified eyes, and said with difficulty, "You, actually, really, real martial arts realm." Immediately, his head hit the ground with a thud and he died immediately. What? Xianxia seemed to have just come to his senses at this time, and his expression changed drastically. He stared at Ye Feng suddenly and suddenly realized, this guy who was usually timid, his cold eyes at this moment were like two knives trying to pierce his chest. Only then did Xianxia realize that he had offended someone he shouldn't have. Plop! Xianxia's legs suddenly went weak and he knelt in front of Ye Feng in fear. He shouted in horror, "Spare your life. Master Feng, please spare your life." Xianxia knew about Li Si's abilities. He was a master practitioner and could easily defeat a dozen ordinary people, but now, in Ye Feng's hands, he couldn't hold on even with a single palm. His chest was shattered by a slap from Ye Feng, and his death was extremely miserable. "Get up." Ye Feng spoke up. Yes, Master Feng." Xianxia stood up immediately. He never expected that this young man who was usually bullied would be like this. He actually stepped into the true martial realm and became a real warrior. You must know that many young masters and ladies in the clan are only in the stage of weakening their vitality and blood. Ye Feng looked at Xianxia in front of him, and Xianxia felt a little scared. Only then did he speak out, "Bury Li Si, and then think about Li Si's accidental death. The reason is that I finally told the second lady that I have entered the realm of true martial arts and will never help her feed horses again. She has no right to order me to do anything anymore." After the words fell, Ye Feng waved his sleeves and left. He was wearing a long gown, and his white clothes were as beautiful as the snow. He looked extremely chic at this moment. Xianxia looked at Ye Feng's leaving figure and suddenly collapsed to the ground. He muttered, "How come this guy suddenly has such terrifying strength? It's so dangerous. I almost died just now." The center of the Ye clan's mansion is the Ye clan's ancestral hall. The Ye clan is a very tolerant family. Even outsiders, if they are strong and willing to join the family, they can even marry a woman from the Ye clan, become a son-in-law, and join the Ye clan. Ye Feng naturally has no intention of marrying a woman from the Ye clan, and he is only at the first level of the true martial realm, so he does not have the qualifications. He simply wanted to verify the identity of the Ye clan's children. After all, the Ye clan was a big family nearby and could temporarily provide him with the necessary shelter. When he becomes stronger, it will not be too late to leave the Ye clan and go out to explore. Not far from the ancestral hall, Ye Feng stopped, because in front of him, two Leaf clan guards wearing armor had stopped him. Ye Feng's eyes were calm and he said, "I'm here to certify my cultivation in the true martial realm." True martial arts realm? Are you kidding me? One of the guards burst into laughter and said with contempt in his eyes, "I know you, boy. You are just a horse-feeding slave under the second Mississippi. How dare you enter the ancestral hall? I think you want to steal something." Another guard frowned and said to the companion beside him, "Is this young man really the servant of the second lady who feeds the horses? How come I feel a powerful wave of true energy from him?" Ye Feng looked at the two of them and just said calmly, "I will say it again, I want to enter the ancestral hall and certify my cultivation in the true martial realm. I will not say it a third time." After saying that, Ye Feng stepped directly towards the ancestral hall. Bold! The ancestral hall is not something a lowly boy like you can enter. Stop right there. The first guard suddenly took action and pulled out the long knife from his waist with a clang sound. Buzz! He was full of momentum, and he was at the second level of the true martial realm. At this time, he slashed at Ye Feng with his sword, and a cold sword light appeared on the blade. But at the next moment, what horrified the guard was that Ye Feng turned around suddenly and stretched out his two fingers to directly clamp his long knife. The guard wanted to pull out the long knife, but the long knife was caught between Ye Feng's fingers and did not move at all. How much strength does it take to do this? Another guard was frightened and immediately walked to Ye Feng and begged for mercy. I'm sorry. My brother is too reckless." At this time, the fool also saw that Ye Feng's strength was absolutely extremely powerful. The first guard was too frightened to speak. His face was pale and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Chang, at this time, Ye Feng exerted a sudden force and directly shattered the long knife made of hundreds of steel. Call out, he held a blade between his legs and flicked it instantly. The blade turned into a stream of light and flew directly past the throat of the first guard. Crack, a drop of blood dripped from the guard's throat to the ground. For the sake of the entire Leaf clan, this time I only cut a layer of skin on your throat as a warning. Next time you dare to mess with me, the blade will pierce not the skin, but your entire body. Throat. A cold voice came out of Ye Feng's mouth. He turned around and walked into the Ancestral Hall. Chapter 3 2nd Mississippi. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In situ, the first guard was holding his throat, shaking all over, and almost peed in fear. At that moment, he was so close to death. Beside me, my companion sighed with emotion. We in the Ye clan are really full of talented people. Even the boy who feeds the horses is better than us. At this time, in the Ancestral Hall, the spiritual tablets of the Ye clan seniors were placed on tall vermilion sandalwood shelves, candles were lit on the surrounding pillars, and the atmosphere was solemn and solemn. Ye Feng stepped in, without looking at the spiritual tablets, and just walked towards the inner courtyard of the hall. There is a huge martial arts arena in the inner courtyard. There is a table on the edge of the martial arts arena. Ye Feng walked to the table, looked at the old man sleeping on the table, and knocked on the table several times. Who is it? It's so early, old man, I don't even have a chance to take a nap. The old man muttered and opened his eyes with some complaints, but the moment he saw Ye Feng, the old man suddenly stood up and faced Ye Feng. He seemed to have discovered something and was very surprised. The old man stretched out his hand and started groping around Ye Feng's body, pressing here and squeezing there, murmuring, "Impossible, this is impossible." Ye Feng's eyes were strange, and he quickly took a few steps back and said to the old man, "Senior, do you still need to touch the bones to verify your cultivation in the true martial realm?" No, old man, I'm just curious. You have a special aura about you, and you're in good health. Great. The old man in coarse linen clothes stared at Ye Feng with his old eyes, looking up and down, and making a tsk, 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 tsk sound from his mouth, which made Ye Feng feel a little scared. Is he an old man with some weird quirks? That Ye Feng thought in his heart, and immediately released the aura of his first-level cultivation in the true martial realm, got the identity token of an official member of the Ye clan, and ran out of the Ancestral Hall. The old man in coarse linen clothes smiled slightly when he saw Ye Feng slipping away so fast. A gleam of light bloomed in his old pupils. His tone actually contained a trace of sigh as he murmured, "Are you finally starting to wake up? That's great." Ye Feng hurriedly ran out from the Ancestral Hall. "Brother, wait a minute." The guard who almost pissed himself just now came up and placed a sparkling spiritual stone in Ye Feng's hand in a flattering manner. Ye Feng held the hard spiritual stone in his hand, his eyes puzzled, and asked, "What does this mean?" The guard chuckled and said, "What I did just now is because I am ignorant of Mount Tai and offended you, my brother. This middle-grade spiritual stone is worth 100 low-grade ordinary spiritual stones. It is my filial piety to you, old man. Don't want it for nothing." Ye Feng put the sparkling middle-grade spiritual stone into his arms and walked towards the distance. "Brother, I'll treat you to dinner another day." The guard shouted to Ye Feng. "No need." Ye Feng waved his hand and disappeared into the buildings of the Ye clan's mansion in a blink of an eye. Half an hour later, in the dilapidated hut on the edge of the Ye clan's mansion, Ye Feng sat cross-legged and closed his eyes tightly. The middle-grade spiritual stone in his hand had been drained of its spiritual energy. The golden energy in his body has grown a lot, but it is still far from reaching the second level of Zhenwu realm. Ye Feng opened his eyes, and a faint golden light flashed through his pupils. Practice is too expensive. Ye Feng looked at the powder in his hand after the spirit stone was sucked dry, and the corner of his mouth. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although the divine art of creation allowed me to make rapid progress, to have strong qi, and to have a strong body, every practice cost a huge amount of money. the spiritual energy contained in a middle-grade spiritual stone is enough for an ordinary true martial realm warrior to absorb for more than half a month. However, Ye Feng discovered that he had absorbed the entire middle-grade spiritual stone in just half an hour. I don't know how to make the golden elixir in my mind actively release its spiritual energy and transfer it to me. Ye Feng thought secretly in his heart. He felt that this golden elixir must hide a big secret, but he was temporarily unable to open it. After all, this was something that his father Emperor Yi Qing, an unrivaled god emperor with heavenly cultivation, risked his life to bring out from the above the sky, the #1 restricted life zone in the spiritual world. Ye Feng still vaguely remembers what his father looked at him seriously and whispered in his ear, "This magical elixir is enough for you, Fenger, to live as long as the sun and the moon, and to live as long as the heaven and the earth. Live with the sun and the moon. Live with heaven and earth." What a shock! Even the supreme god emperor cannot live as long as the sun and the moon, and live at the same time as the heaven and the earth. Ye Feng thought about it for a while. The golden elixir released pure spiritual energy before at the critical moment when he broke through to the first level of the true martial realm. Could it be that only at the most critical moment of my breakthrough, this golden elixir will release its pure spiritual energy and help me break through in one fell swoop? Ye Feng secretly thought and guessed, if this is really the case, then it seems that my practice cannot rely entirely on the golden elixir in my mind. Ye Feng closed his eyes again and began to run the divine art of creation, continuously circulating qi and blood in his body. As the great Zhoutian circulates one by one, the golden energy reaches directly into his body, limbs and bones, flesh and blood. Now Ye Feng just wants to break through the realm quickly and let the divine art of creation enter the first level. The God of creation secret is very miraculous. Those who practice it must have the direct bloodline of the royal family of the God of creation. But I am reborn in this new body as the adopted son of the Yi clan. Why can I practice the divine art of creation? Strange, strange. Ye Feng couldn't help but murmur at this time, but he couldn't figure it out, so he didn't think about it that much. The most important thing to consider now is to improve your cultivation strength. My father once told me that with the evolution of the divine art of creation, every time the divine art of creation breaks through a level of heaven, the cultivator will be able to awaken a very terrifying and special accompanying talent. Ye Feng was very curious about what would be the first accompanying talent he would awaken when he entered the first heaven after practicing the divine art of creation. He still remembered that the accompanying talent that his father, Emperor Yi Qing, awakened in the first heaven of the divine art of creation, was a very powerful divine sword called the Heavenly Tribulation Sword. Ye Feng once saw with his own eyes that his father, Emperor Yi Qing, used that sword to kill a majestic ancient dragon. And while Ye Feng was silently practicing in his hut, the center of the Yi clan's mansion is in a huge inner garden. On the green grass, Qin Jiu knelt on the ground in horror, kowtowed to a girl in front of him and said, "Second miss, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have buried Li Si without telling you. Don't kill me, don't kill me." In the end, Qin Jiu didn't hide it, and the second lady Yi Xiling found out the truth. At this time, the girl standing in front of Qin Jiu was wearing a pink dress, with waterfall-like long black hair scattered on her snow-white shoulders, and a red gem dotted on her forehead. She looked like she had a natural of nobility. This girl is the second young lady of the Yi clan, Yi Xiling. Chapter 4 Gift of Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Xiling's eyes are ethereal, her fair face is exquisitely clear, and she looks pure and innocent, but at this moment, the second young lady's eyes were shining with a frightening and vicious look. She looked at Qin Jiu, who was begging for mercy in front of her, and her red lips moved slightly. "Tai Kai, cut this piece of trash into pieces, and then feed it to my one-horned demon horse." "Yes." Next to Yi Xiling, a cold man wrapped in black armor spoke indifferently. "No. Second miss, please, ah." Qin Jiu begged loudly for mercy, but the next moment his neck was broken by the cold man named Tai Kai, and then he was lifted up. The iron armor is very tall, and even the head is wrapped in an armor helmet. The whole figure is like a killing machine, extremely terrifying. Ye Feng, I didn't expect that you, an orphan adopted by your family, would silently step into the first level of the true martial realm and become a warrior. However, you are too naive. You think that you, a slave, can really turn over. There was a sinister look in Ye Xiaoling's beautiful eyes, and she said casually to Tai Kai, who came back to her side, take a few people, find Ye Feng, destroy his dantian first, and then bring it to me. I will teach you personally. Teach this boy what it means to be a slave. Yes, Miss Second. Tai Kai was like a cold and emotionless killing machine. He hugged Ye Xiaoling and walked away. A slave is a slave, and he will never be able to stand up and be on an equal footing with us, the heirs of the family. Ye Xiaoling snorted coldly, walked to a rocking chair in the garden, half lay down on it, and entered a state of doze. The second young lady believed in Tai Kai's strength, and she knew that she just had to wait for the final result. After all, Tai Kai was one of the family's warriors trained by her amazingly talented sister, and her strength was unfathomable. When the iron armor becomes murderous, when he arrived at Ye Feng's residence, he found that Ye Feng was not in the house and had gone somewhere, returned in vain. In the garden, Tai Kai stood in front of the second young lady, knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, he escaped. Escaped? Ye Xiaoling's eyes were frightened and angry, and he suddenly got down from the rocking chair, stood in front of the iron armor and said with a sneer, this slave is so brave. I'm going to contact the family guard, and I must find this dog slave. He is a true martial artist. There is no way to escape from the sky. Just when the two thought Ye Feng had escaped from the family, Ye Feng didn't even think about escaping. He just came to a 9-story tower in the heart of the family. This 9-story tower is called Wu Pagoda. Around the martial arts tower, there is a market within the family. The newly recognized family's official true martial realm warriors have a free opportunity to choose a weapon and a set of basic combat skills and martial arts. This is a special benefit provided by the Yi clan to encourage the younger generation to practice hard. The reason why Ye Feng chose to stay in the Yi clan was to get these benefits. Ye Feng had never thought about becoming a casual cultivator and traveling around the world. But he knew that he was far from reaching such willful strength. If you have a weak cultivation level and rashly leave your family and the protection of a big force, you will definitely die quickly in this vicious world of martial arts practice, because there are not only threats from vicious people outside, but also threats from various powerful beasts in the wilderness. Ye Feng was a human being in 2 lifetimes, with a natural mind that he is much more mature and steady than other teenagers of the same age. At this time, Ye Feng walked to the clan Nifang city around Wuda. It was crowded and extremely noisy. The Yi clan is a large family in Nanyang County, with a profound heritage and many clan members. Even though the area around the martial arts tower was just the family's internal trading market, it was still crowded with people, with no end in sight. Ye Feng was walking in the city, looking at the bustling crowd, and felt that he was about to truly integrate into his identity in this life. Although he was the son of the God Emperor in his previous life, his body was weak due to the curse. Throughout his life, he was protected by Emperor Yi Qing in the depths of the palace of the Fortune God dynasty. He could only look up at the sky within the courtyard wall, but in this life, Ye Feng has the qualifications to practice. In this life, he wants to see all the scenery in the world, thousands of miles of rivers and mountains. Ye Feng walked towards the counter at the front of Fengshe. There, as long as you show your newly authenticated identity token, you can receive the family's benefits for new disciples. But what made Ye Feng's face become extremely weird was that when he walked to the counter, he saw the strange old man in the ancestral hall yesterday again. The old man in coarse linen clothes looked at Ye Feng, smiled, with wrinkles on his face, and said, "Boy Ye Feng, we meet again." Old man I helped Ye Feng get the certification, so he naturally knew Ye Feng's name. Ye Feng's face was expressionless, and he subconsciously took a step back and said, "Senior, I'm here to receive weapons and martial arts skills." Whether it is weapons or martial arts combat skills, they are of great help to improve the strength of warriors. In his previous life, Ye Feng was locked in the palace of the divine dynasty, so he really enjoyed listening to those legendary stories. In those stories, the vast world, endless. On the earth, the strong men of the human race, armed with soldiers, roared into the sky, slaying evil beasts, making people's blood boil and their hearts enchanted. Even though Ye Feng is the son of the God Emperor, he is still a young man with passion in his heart and an element of adventure hidden in his bones. Among the stories he listened to, his favorite ones were those swordsmen, how the world changed with a roar, and the 19 states were chilled by a sword, how cool and joyful it was. Kill one person in 10 steps and leave no trace in 1,000 miles. When it's over, brush off your clothes and hide your merit and fame. Ye Feng murmured and said to the old man in my behind the counter, I want a sword as a weapon and martial arts skills. I will choose a set of sword skills. When the old man in my heard the few lines of swordsman's poem that Ye Feng inadvertently muttered just now, he couldn't help but move his eyes and praised, You kid, you are very suitable to me. I will give you a sword directly. After saying that, Ye Feng couldn't help but his eyes lit up. This old man seemed to have a very extraordinary status. What level of sword does he want to give himself? I will give this sword to you today, so that you can live with this sword. The old man in my took out a sword box and inserted a long sword into the sword box. Ye Feng looked expectantly and carefully took the sword box. Whether it is martial arts, combat techniques, or weapons and armor, in the world of martial arts practice, there is a unified hierarchy based on the power that can be released: ordinary level, yellow level, Xian level, earth level, heaven level, king level, emperor level, Zun level, saint level, emperor level. However, not to mention in this small Nanyang County, even in the entire Great Yan dynasty, heaven-level martial arts or soldiers were already the treasures of the country. As for the more advanced king level, emperor level and other martial arts warriors, they are all legendary level existences in Longyuan continent. Chapter 5 This Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ye Feng's eyes flickered, and he thought to himself, although it has been 3,000 years since the destruction of the divine dynasty of creation, my father once told me that in a mysterious place, the treasury of our divine dynasty of creation is hidden. There is only one emperor in the world. I know with a few close friends that it contains endless wealth and treasures. But Ye Feng also knows that this is not something he can consider temporarily. At this time, he looked at the solemn eyes of the old man in front of him. Ye Feng guessed in his mind that he didn't know what level the long sword contained in the sword box would be. For today's Ye Feng, in a small place like the Yi clan, as long as he can get yellow level weapons that surpass ordinary level weapons, he is satisfied. What level of sword will this sword be? Chang! With a burst of sword sound, Ye Feng suddenly pulled out the long sword from the ancient sword box with full expectation. Such a broken sword, that what surprised Ye Feng was that the long sword he pulled out was stained with rust, as if it would rot and crack in the next moment. Ye Feng's eyes darkened, he stared at the old man in my behind the counter, and said, Old man, are you trying to trick me on purpose? The old man in my did not panic at all, but just smiled mysteriously and said, People cannot be judged by appearance, and sea water cannot be measured. The surface of this sword is stained with rust, but in fact, even I cannot figure out what hidden power this sword has. Maybe, you kid can do it. Oh really? When Ye Feng heard what the old man said, he doubtfully inserted the rusty sword in his hand into the sword case and carried it behind his back. There are several books on sword skills and martial arts here. I'll give them to you for free, kid. The old man in my took out a few sword books from behind the counter and threw them to Ye Feng casually. They are all yellow-level martial arts. Elementary sword skills. Ye Feng took a quick look and saw that there were 3 books in total: Mingyue Swordsmanship, Fierce Dragon Swordsmanship, and Gufeng 9 Swords. Thank you, senior, for your generous gift. Anyway, Ye Feng hugged the old man behind the counter. Fist, kill the enemy with iron blood. Treat your friends sincerely. Be grateful to your benefactor. This is the principle of life that Emperor Yi Qing had repeatedly warned Ye Feng back then. Ye Feng has always kept it in mind. The old man in my looked at Ye Feng and said with a smile, Young man Ye Feng, practice hard and go ahead. As he said this, old man seemed a little bored and fell asleep directly on the counter. When Ye Feng saw this scene, he smiled slightly, turned around and walked away. He did not return to his residence, but walked towards the wilderness outside Nanyang County. In the wilderness, there are ancient trees, roars of ferocious beasts, and bloody auras. It is a naturally dangerous place, but it is also a paradise for warriors to hone their martial arts strength. Ye Feng left the Yi clan and bought a 1,000-mile horse in Nanyang County. He was going to enter the wild forest outside the city to hone his sword skills and hone his martial arts strength. after all, truly strong men are forged in blood and fire, boom. The horse's hooves galloped wildly, and Ye Feng rushed out of Nanyang County City and galloped freely in the wilderness, under the vast sky. The cold wind howled. In the endless wilderness, Ye Feng hunts in white, alone, with a long sword on his back, running wildly on horseback, his pride soaring into the sky, his blood boiling. In this life, the sky is high and the sea is vast for me to conquer. In this life, every word and action will shock the world. This is the life I really want, everything I want. Ye Feng looked up to the sky and roared at this moment, his heart filled with pride. The young man in white is walking with his sword in hand. The blue sky is thousands of miles away, and the world is full of vicissitudes. This one that the curtain, under the gaze of countless people at the city gate, seemed so shocking and eternal. At the gate of the city, someone could not help but admire. What a handsome young man, what a fierce horse. That 1,000-mile horse is very fast. In less than half a day, Ye Feng had already galloped on his horse and arrived at a small town on the edge of the wilderness outside Nanyang County. This small town is called Xian Town. It is backed by the Xian Mountains and has countless people coming and going every day. Ye Feng dismounted and walked into Xian Town. The small fringe town was packed with people and extremely lively, but at the same time, there are also many hidden dangers, because this town was established by warriors who entered the Xian Mountains for hunting. Strength is the rule, and it is very chaotic. Killing people, stealing goods, and fighting between forces are all common things. Ye Feng walked towards the center of Xian Town, and he saw all kinds of people along the way. There were mercenaries wearing tattered armor, there are wandering warriors with fierce eyes, there were also children of big families wearing brocade clothes and satin, surrounded by many family guards. There are also many beautiful women standing in front of each hut, all dressed up in graceful and charming ways. When Ye Feng came out of the family, he had already learned that many bounties could be accepted in the pavilion in the center of Xian Town. Most of these bounty missions were issued by some dignitaries in Nanyang County and even the Great Yan dynasty. Most of the bounty missions are looking for special elixirs, strange beasts, etc. from the Xian Mountains. The prices for the bounties were very high. Ye Feng thought that it would not be bad to hone his martial arts practice in the wild forest and take on a few bounty missions. Anyway, after accepting the bounty mission, there was no people forced the requirement to be completed, but when Ye Feng walked to the pavilion in the center of Xian Town, he was stopped by two mercenaries. These two mercenaries were both about 30 years old, with sinister eyes. They stared at Ye Feng and said impatiently, "Where did you come from? Don't you know the rules? To enter this bounty pavilion, you need to pay 3 low-grade spiritual stones to our Blizzard mercenary group." Is there still such a rule? That Ye Feng's eyes were puzzled, but at the next moment, many people around were pointing. There's another new kid who's going to be tricked, but there's nothing we can do about it. Who can afford to offend this Blizzard mercenary group? That I heard whispers from the crowd. Ye Feng knew that the two mercenary warriors who stopped him were forcing charges. Sure enough, the weak are destined to be bullied, and strength is the rule. Ye Feng laughed at himself, and then he stared at the two people in front of him with cold eyes and said, "Get out of the way." With that said, regardless of what the two of them said, Ye Feng walked directly towards the reward pavilion. "Baby, you are so brave. Detain him directly. Bring back the mercenary group and let the family behind him spend money to redeem him." The two mercenaries roared and burst into powerful martial arts aura. They are all actually third-level heavenly warriors in the true martial realm. "Get away!" But along with Ye Feng's cold drink, a surging golden energy burst out from Ye Feng's body. Boom! Boom! The powerful countershock force instantly blew away the two mercenaries, and they fell hard to the ground. What? Seeing this sudden scene, everyone watching around was shocked. Chapter 6, Demonic Talent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1 second they were still mourning for Ye Feng, and the next second, Ye Feng blasted away two mercenaries. The two mercenaries were lying on the ground, with blood bleeding from the corners of their mouths. They stared at the young man in white, their eyes full of horror. "If you dare to mess with me again, I won't hold back anymore." Ye Feng snorted coldly, turned around and walked into the reward pavilion. This kid is only at the first level of the true martial realm. How can he have such powerful true chi? We can't even get up close. The two mercenaries looked at each other with deep shock in their eyes. In the bounty pavilion, Ye Feng accepted 3 bounty tasks, each of which was to find 3 special elixirs. The total bounty is 100,000, which is a huge sum of money for Ye Feng today. He did not stay in Xian town for too long. He walked directly out of the town and walked towards the wild jungle of Xian mountain range, and just when Ye Feng left Xian town and disappeared into the mountains and jungles, at the gate of the town, the 2 mercenaries who had just been knocked away by Ye Feng stared at Ye Feng's leaving back with sinister eyes. They didn't seem to give up, but instead hated Ye Feng even more. A mercenary said, "We have to find a way to take revenge." The other mercenary looked a little ugly and said, "But the only thing we can use is the power of our Blizzard mercenary group, but the leader will not offend a martial arts genius because of this trivial matter." The first mercenary thought for a moment, then suddenly smiled sullenly and said, "Hey, let's do it. Think of a reason to put the blame on that kid and let the captain take action." The Xian Mountains are connected to the most majestic and vast wilderness forest on Longyuan continent. This mountain range belongs to a very small area on the periphery of the truly wild forest. But even so, the layers of dense forests in the Xian Mountains are filled with an aura like a primitive jungle. Ye Feng was carrying a sword box on his back, wearing white clothes and snow, walking in the Xian Mountains. There was no rush to find the 3 special elixirs in the bounty mission, because when Ye Feng came to the Xian Mountains, the most important thing was to practice martial arts and practice swordsmanship. When warriors fight, the moment of life and death is the fastest. Progress. Moreover, the ultimate secret of the divine art of creation is to expand the true energy, strengthen the physique, and temper the spirit in countless battles. Ye Feng still remembers that 3,000 years ago, his father Yi Qingdi fought with countless opponents. Among them were human emperors, demon clan demon gods, the ancient holy emperor among all races of creatures, and even some from outside the territory. Starry Sky Beast, it was those countless fights and battles that finally made Emperor Yi Qing famous throughout the spiritual world, achieved the position of the supreme god emperor, established the divine dynasty of creation, and was respected by all races as the #1 man in the spiritual world. A tiger father has no dog sons. Ye Feng will never allow himself to be mediocre in this life. Chang, Ye Feng took a deep breath and pulled out the rusty sword on his back. This rusty long sword was given to him by the linen-clad old man in the family. It seems to be a sword with a hidden secret. Ye Feng held the sword, instantly circulated the huge amount of qi in his body, and began to practice the sword, Mingyue swordsmanship, fierce dragon swordsmanship, Gufeng 9 swordsmanship. 3 yellow-level elementary swordsmanship mysteries flowed in Ye Feng's heart. His mind was working rapidly, trying to understand these 3 sets of swordsmanship and martial arts. The understanding of combat skills and martial arts requires time to accumulate. So Ye Feng is not in a hurry, but at the moment when Ye Feng was just practicing his sword, an indescribable void force suddenly spread out from the golden elixir that was floating in his mind. At this moment, what shocked Ye Feng was that his ability to comprehend these 3 unfamiliar sword skills and martial arts suddenly became extremely powerful, of clarity. It was like layers of fog were all lifted away at once. What's happening here? There are 3 sets of sword skills and martial arts, each with its own complex martial arts secrets, but at this moment. Ye Feng compared the martial arts moves and practiced them once, but he mastered them instantly. Swish, swish, swish. Ye Feng practiced the 3 sets of swordsmanship and martial arts again, and his level of understanding was now complete. Ye Feng's eyes were full of deep disbelief. Even if he was the son of the god emperor in his previous life, he had never seen such a monster's talent for understanding. After being reborn in this life, isn't he a martial arts waste? How come you suddenly possess such an incredible ability to comprehend? To verify that this is not my illusion, Ye Feng suddenly drew out his sword and performed the bright moon sword technique. Chang, accompanied by a crisp sword cry, a bright sword aura suddenly emerged from the body of the long sword in Ye Feng's hand. It was sharp and cold, capable of cutting gold and iron. At the same time, a cold bright moon appeared on the long sword. This is the symbol of the perfect level of Mingyue swordsmanship. When the sword comes out, the bright moon appears, and the sword can cut through gold and iron. How come my martial arts talent has become so evil? Ye Feng was shocked inexplicably. He once again performed another sword technique, the fierce dragon sword technique. Roar! The moment the sword came out, along with a vast roar, a vague shadow of a fierce dragon appeared on the sword body. The long sword suddenly became extremely heavy, as if it could split a hill in an instant. It is also a sign that martial arts has reached a perfect level. Could it be, at this time, Ye Feng suddenly felt that the golden elixir floating in his mind was trembling slightly, exuding a mysterious power that was incomprehensible. It seems that it is this mysterious power that turned his originally mediocre martial arts talent into such a monster. For an ordinary martial artist to practice a set of martial arts, even the lowest Huang-level elementary martial arts, it would take several months to reach a perfect level, but now, Ye Feng has only practiced sword practice twice. If this news spreads, I don't know how many people will be shocked. Even Ye Feng himself was shocked by his evil talent. This golden elixir that my father obtained during a life-and-death struggle seems to have a great origin. Ye Feng has now discovered the two heaven-defying abilities of the golden pill in his brain. The first one is to be able to actively release the majestic spiritual energy at the critical moment of one's breakthrough to help one quickly break through the bottleneck. There is no need to worry about the hidden martial arts problems caused by being unable to break through the bottleneck. The second one transformed his martial arts talents and martial arts qualities into an incomparable monster. Thinking in his heart, Ye Feng walked towards the depths of Xian mountain range. In any case, martial arts cultivation is the true foundation of martial arts. He is currently only at the first level of the true martial realm. Even though the divine art of creation makes his combat power far superior to that of a warrior of the same level, it is not enough. Ye Feng knew that in order to deal with the second young lady Ye Xiling, he needed to become stronger, so strong that when others saw him, they would not feel contempt but fear. Ye Feng knew very well that the secret of killing Li Si would not be kept for long, and the second lady would know it sooner or later. Ye Feng has a deep understanding of Ye Xiling, the seemingly innocent but cruel second lady of the Yi clan. He knew that perhaps when he returned to the family again, he would face a storm of oppression from the second young lady Ye Xiling. To deal with everything calmly, Ye Feng needs stronger cultivation. Chapter 7, Creation of the Battle Body. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the next few days, Ye Feng has been hunting ferocious beasts in the wild forest. The beast's meat, beast's blood, and the beast core in the beast's body can all provide powerful strength for the warrior to break through. 3 days later, in a swampy place emitting methane gas. An 8-armed ferocious beast covered with silver scales was pierced by Ye Feng's sword and fell to the ground. Dying, Ye Feng took out the core of the ferocious beast, washed it with water, and swallowed it directly into his mouth. Boom! The beast core reached his throat and instantly turned into a huge demonic energy, which rushed into Ye Feng's limbs and bones, and then gathered in his dantian, strengthening his cultivation. Crack! The true energy in Ye Feng's body exploded. At this moment, a new and powerful momentum spread from his body in all directions, the third level of the true martial realm. After several days of hunting ferocious beasts and devouring the core, Ye Feng's cultivation level rapidly increased, reaching 2 levels in a row. If this scene were seen by outsiders, they would definitely be horrified, because in the cultivation world, it is generally accepted that human warriors cannot directly swallow the core of a ferocious beast. There is a natural conflict between the demonic essence in the beast's core and the true energy in the human warrior's body. If they are directly swallowed, the true energy will flow backwards in an instant, and they will become possessed and die. But Ye Feng boldly swallowed the beast core and refined it, which instantly became the power to strengthen his own cultivation. Everything is the strange ability of the God of creation. Good luck brings good luck. It is to seize the creation of heaven and earth and forge the most powerful self. The divine secret of creation gave Ye Feng's true energy the ability to embrace all rivers and embrace everything. Therefore, Ye Feng's body is like a big oven that can absorb and accommodate the power of creatures of any attribute and race. At this time, Ye Feng finally understood what a domineering and even weird inheritance of the divine art of creation it was. It's just that it may take some time before we can truly step into the first level of the divine art of creation. Ye Feng murmured. He was very curious about what kind of accompanying talents he would awaken when he cultivated the divine art of creation to the first level. however, the evolution of the divine art of creation is closely related to Ye Feng's level of martial arts cultivation. Finally I found you. You stole the treasure of our Blizzard mercenary group and you dared to escape into the Xian mountains. You are really brave. Suddenly at this moment, a sinister voice full of murderous intent sounded not far from Ye Feng. Who is talking? Stealing the Blizzard mercenary group's treasure? What do you mean? I never steal anything. Ye Feng's face suddenly became extremely confused. At this time, from the jungle not far away, big men wearing armor slowly walked out. Dozens of powerful warriors blocked Ye Feng's path, and their eyes were full of piercing murderous intent. Is it you two? Ye Feng instantly recognized that among the dozens of warriors from the Blizzard mercenary group, there were two people standing at the front. It was the two mercenaries that he had blown away in front of the bounty pavilion in Xian town. Ye Feng understood it in an instant. It seems that these two mercenaries are still determined to take revenge on themselves. But they definitely need a reason to ask the Blizzard mercenary group behind them for help. Ye Feng stared at the two mercenaries coldly and said in a low voice, "Are you two deliberately slandering me?" He never expected that in order to deal with him, these two mercenaries would lie and falsely accuse him of stealing the Blizzard mercenary group's secret weapon, Precious. I didn't want to start a bloody storm, but you didn't give me a chance. Ye Feng shook his head and sneered. Tap tap tap. Deep footsteps sounded. Ye Feng walked straight towards the two mercenaries who slandered him. In his eyes, there is a biting cold murderous intent boiling. Ye Feng is not a murderous person, but Ye Feng will never show mercy to such an insidious villain. Boom! A violent martial arts momentum burst out from Ye Feng's body. What? Third level of true martial realm. The two mercenaries' eyes were immediately shocked. 3 days ago, when we were in Xian town, wasn't this kid at the first level of the true martial realm? In just 3 days, 2 heavens were broken in a row. What a terrifying cultivation speed this is. Terrible. Don't be afraid. There are so many of us, why are we afraid of this kid alone? Come together and kill this thief who stole the treasures of our Blizzard mercenary group. The two mercenaries shouted. After all, they are members of a mercenary group. The other mercenaries shouted loudly, "Kill this guy. Anyone who offends our Blizzard mercenary group will have to die to pay the price." Boom boom boom. More than a dozen true martial realm mercenaries released their powerful fighting spirit, and instantly held long swords in their hands to kill Ye Feng. Foolishness. Ye Feng looked at the people rushing towards him, with a sarcastic arc on his lips. Since you all want to die, then I will make it happen for you. Ye Feng didn't want to hold back at this moment. In the martial arts practice world outside, it's like fighting. The scene is the same. When enemies meet, they will either die or be injured. Chang. Accompanied by a sword cry, the rusty long sword was pulled out by Ye Feng from the sword case behind his back. Ye Feng suddenly drew his sword. The light of the sword was like lightning, and death was like wind. The cold and hard sword tip instantly penetrated the throat of a mercenary at the third level of the true martial realm. Instant kill. Boom. At this time, the long swords of the other dozen mercenaries all slashed in front of Ye Feng. The divine secret of creation. Create a fighting body. Ye Feng roared in his heart. He suddenly raised his left hand, and the skin of his palm turned into a bronze color at this moment. The bronze palm seemed to have been poured with molten iron, shining with a cold and hard metallic luster, and instantly crushed more than a dozen chopped stainless steel knives. What? This shocking scene made more than a dozen mercenaries stunned. It seems that the divine art of creation is about to officially break through and enter the first heaven. Father once said that every time the divine art of creation breaks through a level of heaven, not only will a companion talent be awakened instantly. Moreover, it can make the cultivator's body undergo a huge transformation, becoming stronger and stronger, and there is no problem in defeating soldiers. The symbol of the first level of the divine art of creation is the bronze battle body. The strength of my body, including flesh, bones, meridians and even skin, will be as if it is made of divine copper, indestructible. At this time, Ye Feng's heart rang out that his father, Emperor Yi Qing, told him some secrets about the divine secret of creation. At this moment, looking at his bronze palm, he couldn't help but laugh. You come to me today, but you are sending yourself to death. Chapter 8 Bounty on the Head. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The bronze battle body has terrifying power, making Ye Feng's entire body as hard as divine bronze. A warrior at the true martial realm level can't hurt him at all. How can we fight this? A group of mercenaries from the Blizzard mercenary group were all panicked, they retreated wildly. You've already come to your door, can you still run away? Ye Feng shouted loudly. Mingyue swordsmanship. The secret of Dzogchen. Endless sword rain, clang, clang, clang. Accompanied by bursts of terrifying sword sounds, a cold bright moon rose above the body of the long sword in Ye Feng's hand. The sharp sword energy formed a rain of swords in the sky, instantly covering all the retreat routes of the Blizzard mercenary group. Pft. 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 The mercenaries who were originally arrogant were howling miserably at this moment, their bodies were pierced by the rain of swords from the sky, and they were killed instantly on the spot, in a blink of an eye. Only the two mercenaries who had slandered Ye Feng were left on the field. Ye Feng suddenly stepped forward and came directly in front of the two of them. My lord, have mercy on me. My lord, have mercy on me, ah. A mercenary immediately knelt on the ground with a thud, kowtowing crazily. Pft. But Ye Feng suddenly drew his sword, and the sword flashed. Before the mercenary could finish speaking, his throat was sealed with a sword, and he died on the spot. I have given you a chance, but you don't know how to cherish it. Ye Feng said coldly. He looked at the last mercenary, his cold eyes made the mercenary tremble all over. The mercenary looked at his dead comrades beside him and suddenly gave up. He shouted fiercely at Ye Feng, this time we are just a vanguard team. The captain and the deputy captains are all in the Xian mountains. They are all masters at the 9th level of the true martial realm, and the leader is a super strong person in the spiritual martial realm. Boy, you can't escape, ah. Before the mercenary could finish his threat, Ye Feng had already sent him home with a sword. I didn't expect that the leader of this Blizzard mercenary group is actually a strong man in the spiritual martial realm. Ye Feng frowned slightly, and a look of fear flashed in his eyes. Although he is now invincible among true martial realm warriors, it will definitely be very dangerous to encounter a being at the spiritual martial realm level, and his life may even be in danger. Buzz. Suddenly at this moment, Ye Feng was shocked. He first sensed some changes in his body. Immediately, Ye Feng's eyes were filled with joy. With a thought, his whole body suddenly turned into a bronze body. This is the bronze battle body of the first level of the divine art of creation. Ye Feng's flesh, bones, skin, hair, and even his pupils and eyebrows are like pouring bronze water. Under the sunlight, they sparkle with a cold metallic luster and are indestructible. During the fierce fight just now, I actually stepped into the first level of the divine art of creation. Then my first accompanying talent should be revealed soon. Ye Feng was thinking in his mind. Suddenly, a mysterious force rushed out of his body, and a huge ancient oven appeared in the void behind Ye Feng. Stove? What's the situation? My first awakening companion talent was actually a stove. Ye Feng's eyes were stunned, and his face suddenly became strange. He still remembered that it seemed that his father, Emperor Yi Qing, was practicing the divine art of creation, and the first associated talent that was awakened was a supreme divine sword called the Heavenly Tribulation Sword. Why do I just wake up and light the stove? Are you kidding me? Ye Feng suddenly became extremely depressed, but the next moment. Boom! A huge force of darkness suddenly rushed out from the oven that appeared behind Ye Feng. Crash! Crash! What shocked Ye Feng to the extreme, from the corpses of mercenary warriors on the ground around him, all the majestic true energy was absorbed in an instant, and then gathered into the oven behind him, then swallow and refine. Boom! At this moment, Ye Feng felt that his whole body had received a majestic energy, which suddenly made his cultivation level reach its peak. Boom! A new and powerful momentum suddenly spread from Ye Feng's body in all directions. He actually broke through the 3rd level of heaven in one place and reached the 6th level of Zhenwu realm. This is the skill extracted from dozens of mercenaries. At this time, Ye Feng looked around, his eyes were startled. The bodies of dozens of mercenary warriors from the Blizzard mercenary group on the ground have shriveled up, their true energy and the skills they had worked hard to cultivate for decades were all snatched away by the oven behind Ye Feng in an instant, and became the tools to strengthen Ye Feng, nourishment. The oven of creation can devour all kinds of power, including spiritual stones, spiritual crystals, heavenly materials and earthly treasures, essences of the sun and moon, the power of wind and thunder, earth fire and sky fire, etc. It can even directly devour and plunder the power of other living beings. At this time, a message appeared in Ye Feng's mind. The oven of creation. What a domineering devouring ability. Ye Feng stared at the huge oven floating in the void behind him. Only then did he realize how terrifying his first awakening companion talent was. Leader, there seems to be the sound of fighting over there, let's go over and have a look, maybe they have found the stealing boy. Suddenly at this time, the voices of some people came from the depths of the jungle not far away. Aha! Ye Feng's figure flashed and he quickly left in another direction. The leader of the Blizzard mercenary group is a strong man in the spiritual martial realm, and he has several deputy leaders who are at the peak of the 9th level of the true martial realm. Ye Feng knew that for the time being, he did not have the strength to confront this group of people head-on. The Xian mountains are so vast. I don't believe that you people can find me again. Ye Feng sneered and quickly disappeared into the mountains. Not long after, a roar of overwhelming anger came from the place where Ye Feng fought just now. No. Everyone listen to the order. Immediately mobilize all the power of our Blizzard mercenary group to hunt down that damned thief. Also, tell all the wandering warriors in the entire Xian mountains, or other mercenary groups. As long as that little thief is caught, I, Xianxia, am willing to offer a reward of 500,000 yuan. I want that kid's head. Xianxia is naturally the leader of the Blizzard mercenary group. When he saw the corpses on the ground, the anger and murderous intent in his heart boiled to the extreme like a river. He even went so far as to offer a reward of 500,000 yuan for Ye Feng's head. A few days later, in a jungle. Call out, accompanied by a sonic boom, a sharp arrow made of gold and iron instantly tore through the air, like a bolt of lightning, and instantly hit Ye Feng's arm. The sharp golden iron arrow instantly penetrated Ye Feng's arm, bringing out a pool of blood. Ye Feng's eyes were cold, as if he couldn't feel the pain, and he quickly stepped towards a certain direction in an instant, and at the next moment, a tall young man holding a big bow in his hand came from a distance. Chapter 9 Chase. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. This person is the deputy leader of the Blizzard mercenary group. His name is Lu Ming, and he is a strong man in the 9th level of the true martial realm. He has been hunting Ye Feng for the past few days. With the big bow in his hand, he forced Ye Feng to flee. The big bow in Lu Ming's hand was made entirely of fine iron, with mysterious runes shining brightly on the bow body. This bow, called the Wind and Thunder Bow, is a Xian-level weapon that surpasses the yellow level. The body of the bow was engraved with spiritual patterns by the rune master, and every arrow shot had a terrifying killing power and was incomparably miraculous. And this is also the reason why Ye Feng has been running away. The power of this bow was so powerful that even the hardness of his bronze combat body was unable to withstand the hunting of this mysterious level bow. At this time, Lu Ming looked at Ye Feng's blood on the ground, looked in the direction where Ye Feng escaped, and smiled. Coldly, boy, you can't run away. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden-eyed eagle standing on Lu Ming's shoulder flew high into the sky. This golden-eyed eagle has extremely powerful searching capabilities. This is also the reason why Lu Ming was able to track Ye Feng all the time, now in the entire Xian mountains, because of the 500,000 reward offered by Xianxia, the leader of the Blizzard mercenary group. All wandering warriors and major forces are frantically searching for Ye Feng and chasing him down. Ye Feng's current head is worth 500,000 in bounty. Who doesn't want to get such a huge fortune? Including our own people in the Blizzard mercenary group, they are all very greedy. So at this time, Lu Ming was very eager to hunt Ye Feng and take off Ye Feng's head. He didn't notify anyone else to help because Lu Ming wanted to monopolize the 500,000 bounty. He has strong confidence that he can kill Ye Feng, a boy who is only at the 6th level of the true martial realm. whether it was martial arts cultivation or powerful weapons, Lu Ming knew that Ye Feng was no match for him. Boy, you're dead. The 500,000 bounty is destined to belong to me, Lu Ming. Lu Ming Yen, the god showed a deep greed, and then turned into murderous intent, and instantly rushed in the direction of Ye Feng's escape. This kid is still too young and has no experience in the world of martial arts. Looking at the blood stains on the ground, guiding the direction, Lu Ming sneered in his heart. Half an hour later, Lu Ming followed the blood stains on the ground and came to an open space. The blood trail followed a line and led to the bush ahead. At this time, Lu Ming faintly sensed the sound of violent breathing in the dense bushes ahead. Boy! It seems you are too tired to run. Ha ha ha. Your head is destined to be mine. Lu Ming laughed loudly and dashed straight into the dense bushes in front of him, but the next moment, Lu Ming was dumbfounded and froze on the spot. He entered the bush and immediately saw a silver-armored crocodile lying on the ground, as tall as a hill, sleeping. The breathing sound in the bushes that Lu Ming heard just now was not Ye Feng's at all. But it belongs to the fierce forest beast in front of me. Feeling the majestic evil energy of this silver-armored crocodile, Lu Ming knew that this was definitely a terrifying beast that he could not provoke. Escape! Lu Ming only had this thought in his mind. He knew that the blood trail leading here was simply a trap set by Ye Feng for him. What a cunning little thief, Lu Ming thought angrily in his heart. He quietly wanted to retreat, but that's it. Behind Lu Ming, Ye Feng's figure appeared. Ye Feng's hands, holding a stone as big as a fist. Lu Ming turned his head slightly and looked at Ye Feng. His face suddenly turned livid, and he quickly whispered, "No, don't." But Ye Feng just showed a shameless smile. "I wish you good luck." Call out. The next moment, Ye Feng threw the stone as big as his fist directly onto the towering hill-like silver-armored crocodile lying in the bush. Roar! Almost at this moment, an earth-shattering roar roared out from the mouth of the silver-armored crocodile. No. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly became extremely frightened. Buzz! He drew his bow and shot an arrow, but before the arrow could be fired, Lu Ming was trampled to pieces by the huge hoof of the silver-armored crocodile. That's right. It's just mud. The dignified deputy leader of the Blizzard mercenary group, a strong man in the 9th level of the true martial realm, he died in an instant. The power of the Beast King in the wild forest is truly terrifying. Ye Feng stood on an ancient tree not far away, holding the corpse of Lu Ming's pathfinding golden-eyed eagle in his hand, and a sneer curved across the corner of his mouth. Sometimes to deal with a strong enemy, you can not only use brute force, but also use your brain. It is as simple as that. 3 hours later, when the silver-armored crocodile in the bushes not far away fell into a deep sleep again, Ye Feng sneaked down from the tree, then tiptoed into the bushes, found the big bough that Lu Ming had lost after his death in the soil, turned around and ran away. Looking at the big bough in his hand, Ye Feng's eyes were overjoyed. The Xian-level weapon, the Wind and Thunder Bow, had mysterious power. This is an extremely precious treasure. If it is brought back, not only in the Yi clan, but probably in the entire Nanyang County, they are all considered to be at the treasure level. This time, not only did he design to kill a powerful enemy, but he also obtained the Wind and Thunder Bow. What a bumper harvest. There seemed to be fighting noises there just now. Let's go over and have a look. Okay, let's go together. Maybe the thief has appeared. Suddenly, several voices were heard in the distance. Ye Feng sneered and muttered to himself, "Blizzard mercenary group, I'll be waiting for you. You guys are so aggressive, so don't blame me for getting rid of you all." The words fell. Aha. Ye Feng jumped up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the next few days, Ye Feng has been chased by many warriors in the Xian Mountains. Among them are the Blizzard mercenary group and various major forces. Moreover, Xianxia, the leader of the Blizzard mercenary group, was even more furious after learning that his capable subordinate Lu Ming had died. He actually directly increased the reward amount of 500,000 to 1 million. 1 million reward amount. Make everyone completely crazy. Everyone in the Xian mountain range was looking for nothing, and they all gathered together to search for Ye Feng. A few days later, beside a lake, Ye Feng killed a 7th-level heavenly warrior of the true martial realm with one sword, then used the creation oven to devour the power of several corpses on the ground. and plundered their wealth such as silver notes, spiritual stones, and elixirs. In the past few days, Ye Feng's cultivation base has skyrocketed rapidly under the devouring and accumulation of the oven of creation. He actually broke through the first level of heaven again and stepped into the 7th level of Zhenwu realm. In just 10 days, Ye Feng's breakthrough speed was shocking, but money can make the world go round, and the number of people chasing Ye Feng is not only not small, but more and more. Chapter 10 Fantasy Scene. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quick! That little thief is there. In the distance, there was a shout. Here we go again. Ye Feng's eyes darkened. Even though he practiced the divine art of creation, the golden energy in his body was extremely powerful, but the pursuit and counterattack for days made Ye Feng a little annoyed and exhausted. Aha! Ye Feng quickly ran toward the deep mountains of the Xian Mountains. He planned to hide in the deep areas of the Xian Mountains for a period of time, just in time to digest the spiritual medicine, spiritual stones and other cultivation resources plundered during this period. When he breaks through again, Ye Feng will no longer be afraid of Xianxia, the leader of the Blizzard mercenary group. When the time comes, go directly to Xianxia and kill him in public to see who dares to hunt him. Ye Feng thought silently in his heart. He looked coldly at the large group of chasing people behind him, turned around and ran into the deep mountains of the Xian Mountains, disappearing without a trace. Everyone stepped forward, and the leader was none other than Xianxia, a strong man in the spiritual martial realm. He came to the jungle at the entrance of the mountain, put his hands behind his back, and said with a sneer on his face, "This is the only entrance and exit into the deep mountain area. It is extremely dangerous inside. That boy will definitely come out. We will wait for him here." Everyone agreed and said, "Senior Chen is right. As long as we wait for that kid to come out and a strong man like Senior Chen is in charge, we will attack together. No matter how powerful he is, we will definitely kill that kid without even a scratch." In the endless jungle, Ye Feng was alone, wearing white clothes and snow, carrying a rusty long sword on his back, and holding a wind and thunder bow in his hand, walking in the deep area of Xian Mountains. He knew that his entrance into this deep area was the only entrance and the only exit. Behind the scenes, the Blizzard mercenary group and others did not pursue him. It seems that we dare not enter this dangerous mountainous area. Ye Feng breathed a sigh of relief temporarily, but he knew that this group of people must be waiting for him to fall into the trap at the only exit. When I break through to the 9th level of the true martial realm, all of you will die and be devoured by my oven of creation. Ye Feng's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Then he continued walking towards the depths of the deep mountain area of Xian mountain range. Ye Feng is going to find a slightly safer cave to practice, with the accompanying talent of the oven of creation. Ye Feng knew that his breakthrough speed would definitely surprise those people. Along the way, Ye Feng saw many frightening dangers. There are poisonous miasma places, terrifying swamps that one can fall into with just one kick. There are also huge sleeping beasts, piranha flowers as tall as a person, and weird vines that can restrain living things. Everything shows that this deep mountain area is full of dangers. Only then did Ye Feng understand why those who were chasing him, even Xianxia, the leader of the Blizzard mercenary group, a strong man in the spiritual martial realm, did not dare to enter this deep mountain area rashly. However, these crises can be easily avoided for Ye Feng, because the mysterious power emitted by the golden elixir in his brain last time not only made Ye Feng's understanding of martial arts extremely evil, even his perception, insight, speed, endurance, etc. These comprehensive martial arts qualities have all been modified to be far beyond ordinary people. Therefore, Ye Feng's super perception allows him to sense his surroundings in advance, dangerous areas, so as to avoid them in time. Boom! Suddenly at this moment, an extremely strong sound of battle waves suddenly came from a certain direction not far away. There are actually people fighting in this deep mountain area? Or maybe two ferocious beasts are fighting. Ye Feng's eyes moved and he ran quickly in that direction. Soon, he came to the edge of a large canyon. Unexpectedly, there is such a huge canyon deep in the Xian Mountains. Ye Feng lay on the edge of the canyon, hiding behind the grass and trees, staring at the bottom of the canyon. What shocked Ye Feng was that in the canyon, A huge python with a length of dozens of meters was chasing and biting more than a dozen human warriors. This huge python is covered with strange purple scales, has 3 snake heads, the snake head is red, and the fangs are several meters long. It looks extremely scary. Venomous python, that Ye Feng's eyes were startled. This was definitely an evil beast that had surpassed the true martial realm and was comparable to the powerful humans in the spiritual martial realm. In the Grand Canyon, a dozen tall guards wearing silver armor were protecting a beautiful girl wearing a plain white dress. This stunningly beautiful girl has a graceful posture, clothes like snow, a delicate and clear face, a pair of big eyes that are ethereal and innocent, shining like stars, 3,000 blue hairs draped over her shoulders, and a silver crystal dotted between her eyebrows. She has a kind of celestial spirit, yet mysterious noble temperament. Nangong Mushue never expected that she would lead a group of royal guards to the depths of the Ziyun Mountains, hoping to find the colorful lotus to celebrate her father's birthday, but in the end, the colorful lotus was not found, but it was accidentally provoked by the vicious and poisonous python in front of him. This poisonous python was so fierce that more than a dozen silver-armored guards fell down next to Nangong Mushue with their steel swords broken and their shields shattered. But the last tall silver-armored guard was pierced by the poisonous fangs of the venomous python in front of Nangong Mushue. He only had time to shout before dying, "Ninth princess, run!" Poof. The tall silver-armored guard was swallowed alive by the poisonous python. Buzz! A venomous python that is dozens of meters long, with a majestic snake body covered with purple scales, is half standing on the ground. Its cold snake eyes are staring at the last human being below, Nangong Mushue. Nangong Mushue's beautiful eyes were full of deathly gray. She knew that she was going to die in the deep mountain area of Ziyun Mountains today. She closed her eyes, waiting for the tragic fate that was destined to be her. Call out! But suddenly at this moment, a golden iron arrow, wrapped in wind, thunder and lightning, burst out from a distance, directly pierced one of the snake heads of the poisonous python. Howl! The poisonous python had a total of 3 huge snake heads. A sudden wind and thunder arrow exploded one head instantly. This behemoth, the remaining 2 snake heads immediately let out an earth-shattering roar. Walk! Nangong Mushue was in a daze, but a boy in white suddenly appeared next to her. He held a big bow in his left hand and ran away pulling her with his right hand. Who are you? Nangong Mushue seemed to have just reacted and asked excitedly. The young man in front of her, with white clothes and handsome face, fell from the sky to save her from danger. Isn't this the scene that Nangong Mushue has fantasized about since she was a child?